Oh, hey, dear folks, how we doing out there? Who thinks these are gonna fall right now, huh? I do. How am I doing? Off to a strong start. Do they look good? That's all that matters. Okay. Hey, dear folks. As I look out onto this room of graduating students, the proud families, friends, prestigious professors, and distinguished alumni, though different in race, politics, and creed, every single one of you has one thing in common. You're all wondering, what in the hell I'm doing up here? Well, me too. For those of you that don't know, I'm the host of the Manitowoc Minute. The Manitowoc Minute's a weekly newscast where I covered the most pressing news stories of the day. Folks, I'm talking everything from Joey the kangaroo escaping Jerry Smith's pumpkin farm down there by Kenosha, to the intricacies of drinking a couple tree beers while water skiing, to Bucky the badger holding on to Paul Bunyan's axe for safekeeping. I've also entered the governor's race. I can tell that cleared up the confusion in the room. A lot of crossed arms back there. Okay, I'd like to thank the Professor Shaw for inviting me to speak today. I'd also like to thank the 43 other speakers who couldn't make it because it's a work day, thereby leaving Professor Shaw with no other choice but to ask the guy who only works 1 minute a week. I says, yeah, sure, Professor Shaw. Just have your people call my people. And I'm happy Mom answered the phone. I'm not saying I'm not qualified, okay? I would just think the journalism school would find somebody with a better relationship with the English language. Or at least someone who puts an H in the number 3, you know? I'm not kidding you, okay? That can get you into trouble. They says, hey, do you need anything for this speech? I says, yeah, give me a beer or tree. They brought those things in the back. And I'm sober. Folks, I'm very excited to be here, so thank you for having me. And I really didn't want to disappoint you, so I did a little investigative journalism of my own. I spent the past 2 days walking around Madison, searching for inspiration, and I let this historic university speak to me. I'll tell you what she says. She says, we believe the great state University of Wisconsin should ever encourage that continual and fearless sifting and winnowing by which alone the truth can be found. I read that on a building. This next thing I read on the sidewalk in sidewalk chalk outside Memorial Union. Love what you have before life teaches you to love what you lost. And I loved that phrase before it rained. Speaking of lost, all who wander are not lost. Found Dad on a poster inside Sunshine Daydream. If you're laughing, you might be high right now. Sunshine Daydream is the head shop, the local head shop. I'm just reciting facts, folks. I'm not endorsing anything. Oh, by the way, Mother's Day is Sunday, and Sunshine Daydream has a great sale on glass vases, okay? Just don't go in there asking to use the bubbler, otherwise you might end up writing this speech and forgetting what you wrote. So we're on this journey together, folks. This is like the first time through for me. Okay, look, before things go too far off the rails, I'm gonna invite the other Charlie up here. Okay, now, before I bring him up, I just want you guys to know that the other Charlie talks with a little bit of an accent. Just please give him your full attention. I promise you he means well, even though he sounds like a Cubs fan, okay? So without further ado, please welcome the other Charlie. Okay. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate this. Class of 2018, give yourself some applause. This is awesome. It really is. Congratulations on getting your diploma today. And actually, funny story, I'm also getting my diploma today. even though I graduated years ago, I will be receiving my diploma just as soon as I return this book to college library. It's a shame I never opened astronomy. It's about astronomy, but I may never know what my horoscope says. It's an honor to be doing the commencement speech at my alma mater. I graduated back in 2009, which may not seem like that long ago, but it was a while ago. Back then, we all thought the recession wasn't going to end. We all thought the hashtag was something you dialed. And we all thought Chris Brown's career just ended. How has Chris Brown's career not ended? When I was in the J school, I wanted to make documentaries, so that's what I focused on. And I spent a lot of time on that, and that's what I thought I was going to do. And then I graduated, and I did what any good college graduate does. I changed my mind immediately. I decided then that I wanted to be the next Brian Williams. Guys, don't give me that look. I'm talking Brian Williams back before he got caught lying about that whole helicopter situation, you know? Which seemed like a big deal at the time, but now we're like, at least he's not Matt Lauer. Yeah. Anyway, I wanted to be the next Brian Williams, but I wasn't getting hired for any on-camera jobs. Yeah, I don't know why. So I ended up going to Los Angeles to work at a production company. I worked this job during the day, and then I started taking broadcasting workshops at night. At the time, I allegedly had a bit of an accent, you know, and I found out when I had my class with this instructor. He had one of those golden NPR voices, you know. From NPR News in Washington, I'm going to judge you. And I wanted to show this guy that I was going to be the next Brian Williams. So it was our first day of doing anchor reads. I wrote my script, put it in the teleprompter. I sat behind the anchor desk. In Menasha today, police pulled over a man from Ashwaubenon for running a stop-and-go light. Police arrested the man after finding weapons in his bag. Yeah, he wasn't laughing. He had this look on his face like he had just found a fresh hemorrhoid, you know? It's like, Charlie, has anybody ever told you that you have a voice for print? Guy, you're a jackass. So anyway, I got shamed into getting a voice coach. But I kept working on my craft, put together a reel, and eventually I landed a job in news. First in South Carolina, then DC, then Dallas, and I got an Emmy for one of my reports, but something was nagging at me. It was me, dear guy, I was nagging at him. Even though I changed my voice, the voice in my head was still the same. And so was the voice in your gut, guy. Yet the voice lives in my head and my gut. It's complicated, but hang with me, folks. And even though I was finding success in traditional journalism, I just decided I needed to do something else. So I took another news job in Los Angeles. I was producing this time. And at night, I decided to start doing stand-up. And on weekends, I was making sketches. And then I started developing characters. One of those characters was a journalist from Manitowoc, Wisconsin, who never got that voice coach, who embraced everything that people said they didn't like about him and just doubled down on it. And that character did pretty well in the comedy clubs. And then I made a video. And that video did way better than I expected, so I made another, and then I got booked to do a headlining show, and that show turned into a tour, and then long story short, that tour was 6 months, and it's really been one of the greatest joys of my life. And yeah, well, that was a pregnant pause waiting for applause. Thank you. I wrote applause, parentheses. But in other words, the reason I bring this up is that thing that instructor in LA hated so much about my voice was the same thing that got me up here speaking to you guys today. And a lot of people are going to tell you what you need to do, and you should listen to them, and you should take constructive criticism, but resist the trap of holding yourself up to someone else's definition of perfection. And don't let anyone fix the things that make you who you are. Get what he said, okay? And just keep her moving. You guys are graduating from an incredible school, with professors who have already taught you lessons that will last a lifetime. They've instilled words and ideas that will echo through your minds for years to come. Unless you were hungover during class, then Google, I don't know. No, but Pat Hastings, Katie Culver, Jack Mitchell, Lou Friedland, you guys did a lot for me, and one specific example of that. In my last journalism class here, Professor Friedland told us to be skeptical, not cynical. Now, it's a timeless quote, but it's become more timely in the past couple of years with the rise of social media bubbles. And whether you're on the right or on the left, I think we can all agree that Facebook sucks. At this point, I'd like to welcome our viewers live streaming on Facebook. Please take a moment now to like the Man to Walk Minute and Charlie Berens. Thank you. But it's not just Facebook. Social media bubbles have turned us into a society of cynics. Cable news has done the same thing. 2017 was the most profitable year in news to date, but it came at a cost. And the public is paying the bill for polarization and bubbles and cynicism. Bubbles, of course, are made with lies, but bridges are built with truth, and truth can only be found in that healthy skepticism. And a skeptic doesn't necessarily need to be somebody in journalism. It can be anyone, really. A skeptic I admire is Dr. Mona Hanna-Attisha. Her study on lead levels in the children of Flint helped expose the Flint water crisis. And when public officials chose to attack her character, instead of listening to her work, Dr. Mona didn't return fire. She didn't recycle divisive rhetoric on Facebook or Twitter. She was too busy being skeptical. She was too busy doing the work. And that work changed the conversation in this country around the environment, around class, and most importantly, around race. And the world is a better place because of her. Now, there are opportunities to choose skepticism over cynicism, and they happen all the time. They happen right here in Wisconsin. Just a couple weeks ago, the EPA announced it would lower air quality standards in Racine County, where Foxconn is building its new plant. Now, as soon as I said Foxconn, half of you were like, to hell with this guy, and the other half of you were like, to hell with this guy. And that's the problem, is that we stopped listening to each other. I mean, my Facebook feed was full of cynicism that day. There was a cynic on the left who said, Scott Pruitt is Satan. Okay, and then there was a cynic on the right that said, screw the hippos. I'm pretty sure he meant hippies. For the sake of the hippos, I hope he meant hippies. Anyway, the point is that cynics rant and rave on Facebook or Twitter or whatever until they feel better, and then they move on to the next trending outrage. But hearts and minds aren't changing, because no one wants to be lectured in the same place they go to Facebook stalk their ex-girlfriend's new boyfriend. The skeptic, on the other hand, will do the work. The skeptic will be contacting researchers to get access to independent air and water quality data, contacting hospitals to inquire about current reports of asthma so they can be compared to future data, figuring out how many jobs were created, figuring out how much money the company saved by not implementing better pollution controls, and comparing that to how much money the people will have to spend on medical bills. And with that data, the skeptic can easily show people on the right and the left whether or not lowering air quality was worth it to the residents of Wisconsin or just for a company and a few politicians. The skeptic would also point out that whether you're on the right or the left, the screen you're seeing the report on is the exact same screen that's been causing any of the pollution to begin with. The skeptic will find the truth, which is often messy. It often doesn't fit nicely into any political narrative, but the skeptic will have faith that truth will make the world a better place. And it's not an easy job. It's a lot easier, and frankly, it feels a lot better to be a cynic. And I've definitely done it at times. But whereas cynics make bubbles with lies, skeptics build bridges with truth, the sifting and the winnowing. And at the end of the day, the skeptic will make the world a better place. The cynic will just try making themselves feel better in a broken world. So to conclude, I'll repeat the last words I first learned here: be skeptical, not cynical. Or you could just tell jokes, because that sounds kind of hard, you know? Okay, folks, I hope this was the best commencement speech of your life. As always, go Packers and the Bears. Class of 2018, keep her moving. Thank you.